Elizabeth Bathory, often referred to as the Blood Countess, is one of history's most infamous figures, her name synonymous with horror and intrigue. Born in 1560 into one of Hungary's most powerful noble families, Elizabeth seemed destined for greatness. Yet, her story took a darker turn, leaving behind a legacy steeped in blood and mystery. To understand how this aristocrat became one of history's most reviled figures, we must delve into her life, uncovering the roots of her cruelty and the events that ultimately led to her downfall. Elizabeth's early life was shaped by privilege and power. She was born in Nyírbátor and raised at the family's ancestral home in Ext Castle. The Bathory family's wealth and influence were unparalleled, and Elizabeth received an education befitting her status. She spoke multiple languages, including Latin, German, and Hungarian, and was well versed in the sciences and arts. However, her childhood was not without darkness. Her family's history was marked by mental illness and violence, and young Elizabeth was exposed to brutal punishments inflicted upon peasants by her relatives. Some accounts suggest she even witnessed executions, experiences that may have desensitized her to human suffering. At the age of 10, Elizabeth became engaged to Ferenc Nadasdy, a prominent Hungarian nobleman. Their marriage was a political alliance, strengthening the power of both families. When they wed in 1575, Elizabeth moved to Castle Tice, a foreboding fortress nestled in the Carpathian Mountains. Ferenc, known as the Black Knight of Hungary, was a soldier renowned for his cruelty on the battlefield. He was often away fighting the Ottoman Turks, leaving Elizabeth to manage their vast estates. It was during this time that her reputation as a strict and unforgiving mistress began to take shape. Initially, Elizabeth's actions could be attributed to the harsh realities of 16th-century feudal life. Noblewomen were expected to enforce discipline among their servants and peasants, often through physical punishment. However, Elizabeth's punishments grew increasingly severe, and rumors of her cruelty began to spread. Some accounts suggest she was influenced by her inner circle, which included servants and alleged practitioners of witchcraft who may have encouraged her darker tendencies. Elizabeth's obsession with beauty and youth became another driving force in her life. In an era when a woman's worth was often tied to her appearance, she became desperate to preserve her looks. According to legend, this obsession took a sinister turn after an incident with a servant girl. Enraged by a mistake, Elizabeth struck the girl, drawing blood. When the blood splashed onto her skin, Elizabeth believed it made her look younger. This moment, whether real or apocryphal, is said to have sparked her descent into unimaginable cruelty. Over the years, young women and girls began to disappear around Castle Tice. Many were lured with promises of employment or education, only to meet horrific fates. Survivors' accounts and later testimonies described acts of torture that defy comprehension. Victims were beaten, burned, mutilated, and even drained of blood. Some stories claim Elizabeth bathed in the blood of virgins, believing it would preserve her youth and beauty. While these tales may be exaggerated, they reflect the sheer terror she inspired. The local population's suspicions grew, but Elizabeth's noble status protected her from accountability. Peasants' complaints were ignored, and those who spoke out risked retribution. For years, Elizabeth's reign of terror continued unchecked, her castle becoming a fortress of horror. Eventually, the weight of Elizabeth's crimes became too great to ignore. King Matthias II, hearing reports of her atrocities, ordered an investigation. In 1610, Georgi Thurzo, the Palatine of Hungary, led a raid on Castle Tice. What they discovered shocked even the most hardened officials. Testimonies from witnesses and evidence found within the castle painted a picture of unimaginable cruelty. Corpses were exhumed, and survivors recounted tales of torture and murder. Some estimates claim Elizabeth was responsible for the deaths of over 600 young women, though the true number remains uncertain. Elizabeth was arrested, along with several of her servants who were accused of aiding her. Her trial became a spectacle, with over 300 witnesses testifying against her. While her servants were executed for their roles in the crimes, Elizabeth's noble status spared her from execution. Instead, she was sentenced to life imprisonment, confined to a small set of rooms within Castle Tice. Her windows were bricked up, and she was left in isolation, her once gilded life reduced to silence and shadows. In 1614, 4 years after her imprisonment, Elizabeth Bathory was found dead in her cell. The official cause of death was recorded as natural, though some speculate she may have taken her own life. Her death marked the end of a dark chapter in history, but her legacy endures. Elizabeth Bathory's story is a chilling tale of power, cruelty, and obsession. While some historians argue that her crimes may have been exaggerated or fabricated as part of a political conspiracy, the evidence of her brutality is undeniable. Whether she was a product of her time, shaped by a culture of violence and superstition, or a uniquely twisted individual, her name remains a byword for horror. The Blood Countess's tale serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind even the most privileged lives.